Vitruvian Link, originally it was soldiers. Well, originally there was none of this. And then there was another draft, and then there was a draft where he said, and soldiers who covet peace. But I thought that wasn't obvious enough, and so I changed it to veterans who covet peace, you know. Well, Smite Lord 100, I think you know everything I know about the broken blades, right? I think the idea is that when you're challenging, I think that if I don't know all the lore of the orcs, but I think that if you are going to challenge the chieftain, it's a trial by combat. And it's not necessarily to the death, but I think it's to like the major wound, right? And so they use swords, and every time one of the swords breaks, you get every time one of the two combatants breaks one of their swords, that stops the battle for a second, and everybody has a chance to yield. She broke her. So, but if you break your sword and don't yield, they just give you another sword and you fight again. And so after 5 broken swords, they said, listen, let's stop this and let's just exile Corva. They couldn't kill me and I wouldn't yield. I think it's basically stolen from, what's his name in DS9 in the Jem'Hadar? Worf. Like the duel in the 13th Warrior. Yeah, I would say, yeah, Sunjammer. I don't think that's, because here's the thing. What's up, Chris Hopper? Also, do you know where the broken swords thing literally comes from? There is no way you're going to know the answer to this unless you know how MCDM works. I'm sort of giving you guys a chance to answer, even though there's no way. Exactly, Simbach. That's where that idea, but specifically the idea of the broken swords comes from. Comes from Grace. Comes from Grace's art. Grace drew Corva with 5 broken swords on her hip. And I didn't notice that at first until I was looking at the orc write-up and thinking about changing it. I'm like, oh, hey, hang on a minute. I didn't look very closely at this. I didn't look very closely at this art. She's got these broken swords hanging from her hip. Why? Well, now you guys know. That's my favorite of his videos, Loroxish. Yeah, it's the, it's the Staff Struck. Vanguard, I don't remember the guy's name, but it's on the tip of my tongue. It's a great fucking video. So yeah, I mean that lore of the orcs was birthed by Grace. I don't know what motivated her, but she just drew the idea that Corva has 5 broken swords on her hip, and I was like, fuck. And actually, I don't even know that they're all broken. I think she's got a bunch of swords hanging from her hip, and the one you can see all of is broken. And so the implication is the other ones are broken. They're just broken off at a point anyway. Yeah. So it's working here. Is you sit there and a lot of that stuff, like, it was also important to me that we make our orcs feel like 3-dimensional people, not necessarily caricature. How well we succeed, I don't know. I'm sure there are some people who are going to read that and think it is a caricature, and then the question is, what are we caricaturing? But the notion of like orcs being the enemy, no, that's never made any sense to me. Even when I was playing in the 80s as a teenager, we never assumed all orcs are bad guys or all orcs are evil. That never made any sense to us. In fact, we never knew anybody that suggested it was true in the first place. We always assumed that the reason orcs are in the monster manual is because humans tend to cut down the forests and the orcs live there. I was 15, you know? So if us at 15 could think that way, then I think it's reasonable for a lot of people to think that way. And that would have been like 85, 86. So sufficiently old school for most people. But actually a lot of that is, it's an amalgam, right? Yeah, there's bits of the 13th Warrior in there, but isn't there also, I don't know if people picked up on it. I hope they didn't. But it wouldn't bother me if they did. No Arab loves the desert. We love green tree. We love green things. You know, like there's nothing in the desert and no man loves nothing. That's a lot of her attitude. And I also like that idea that, you know, when Kul put the orcs into the world, they were the last of the speaking peoples. So they live in the borderlands, right? The humans took the hills and the plains and stuff like that. The elves had the forest, the dwarves had the mountains. And so the orcs ended up populating the spaces in between those spaces. So, you know, it's often when the humans start cutting down the forest, it's often the orc forests that they're cutting down first. And then they got to go through that to get to the elf woad. Anyway. Can we see that orc art? Yeah, it's in the book. Chris Hopper, I hope things are going well with you. For those of you who don't know, Chris Hopper is currently the person responsible for getting our book laid out, which the only reason we're not all panicking is because he's doing it in a timely manner, it seems. Yeah. Flesh Smith. I think it shows deep in, like, I think a lot of people in Orden, that's the point of what Dazar is expressing. And if you know Dazar, there's always I think that guy's more sophisticated. He's a pope, basically. He's the bishop of an entire religion, right? So he's a really sophisticated character, but he doesn't seem that way on the surface. And so when he's like, battle brings glory, he's testing Corva to see. He's like, you guys aren't, everybody knows, is what he's saying, is everybody knows you guys are the best warriors in Orden. And Corva's like, what are you talking about? Like, none of us, orcs don't like battle. Orcs like peace. What she means is, doesn't everybody? Right? Like, that's the subtext is that's a base caricature. That's a stereotype, is what she's saying. The idea that we're great warriors. No, we're not. No more so than the dwarves are. No more so than but cool, put the fire in you. That is literally true. Their veins glow when they get sufficiently angry. And it was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that is absolutely true. That is a thing. But, yeah. Yeah, Topher Photon. But one of the things, like, a lot of humans don't make that distinction because they don't know any better, right? They think why forests freak out normal humans? Because it's fucking dark in there. It's dark at night. It's dark at night, and then in the forest it's worse because it's harder to see moonlight and starlight in there. That's the reason. So humans just naturally think any forest is a haunted wood, but that is not true. And elves don't even know what they mean when they're like, whoa. They're like, what do you mean? You mean just like, anyway. I can't wait for that either, your GMJ. So this is what I'm working on this week. I've got to get the Memenek write-up revised because I need to bring the Memenek write-up more into continuity because Sir John is in there, but I didn't know that was the Sir. I didn't know who Sir John was yet, so I just wrote. The Memenek fiction was one of the first I wrote, and I didn't know this was the getting the party together. And there is no iconic Memenek. There is no iconic Memenek in the book yet. So the Count Revile, I have to rewrite it. So he leaves. He leaves. Like, it's a dude they met on their quest and they settled his problem and then he fucks off. And so I've got to fix that. And I've written a bit of that. Right? Sandre TM, like, forests are scary at night. Night is scary if you don't have gas light or electric light. Yeah. So I think because what happens is I just wrote this. I have to go through, rewrite it, or just revise it. It won't take long, like an hour or two, and then add a bit to the end. Here, John said, handing over the Iridos Star Core. I guess you're free to go. The Count of the Starship Revile looked at the elaborate cage of brass and glass holding a swirling blue starfield. I guess I am, he said. He looked at Sir John. I was lucky to meet one such as you on this world. John shrugged. Only world I've ever known. And then there's a bit where he's like, I'm going to leave now. And he goes, and you can, this is Count Revile talking. And I like the idea that I don't know if I'm going to be able to get away with this. I got to see it, how it fits in the text. But I think the reason he's called Count Revile is that's not his name. His name isn't Revile. His ship is called the Revile. And in his culture, when you're a noble, you're often a noble. Your territory is a ship. Well, I'm trying to double down on that Eldor Rising, right? And he's like, yeah. John says, you're gonna leave and you'll forget all about us. And Count Revile says, and you can forget about the alien you rescued and his ship of steel. And John says, oh, I doubt that. But I'll tell you this, I'll never look at the stars the same way again. And then I don't know where this fits, but I think Count Revile says, if there are many such as you in your world, then your victory over evil is assured. And John says, I don't know about many, John said. He looked at his dragon knight friend. But there might be enough. But see, that doesn't make sense because M comes after D and before P. So I don't think Vanticalisax can be there. It's weird where I make exceptions. But yeah, I don't think Vanticalisax can be there. Because Vanticalisax, they meet Vanticalisax in the letter D, but he doesn't join the team until the letter P. I think probably it is Loroxish. I think it is hereditary. That's the implication, is that the ship is hereditarily bad. It doesn't have to be a big ship. It could be, it could be a relatively small ship. Thinking about porting your 5e game over. What's up, Stephen Banks? This year, not sure if you should wait to start a new game or just go for it. I think that's going to be up to you and your group when you see the book, the PDF / the hardcover. They come out at different times, but I think that's going to be the thing that either your players are like, it's one of those things where I definitely, depending on the D&D game I was playing, this is a great point. Depending on the D&D game I was playing, I think if I looked at Draw Steel, I would either go, oh man, I could absolutely remake my dude in this system. What are we waiting for? I think there are other characters where I would be like, I don't know exactly how I would translate this dude I have made into that. So it depends. It depends on the characters in your group. Is he a member of Unisol? I don't know. It's a good question. Unisol is an organization. It's not a species. So you can be a Memenek and not be an agent of Unisol. I don't think Count Revile is a Unisol agent. I don't think he's not an asshole. He's a nice guy. People like him. He's kind of a swashbuckling. The third tenet, Simbach, life is uncertain. So eat your dessert first. Am I alphabetizing the timeline of the story? Well, it's already alphabetized because the narrative is happening inside the ancestry write-ups, and the ancestry write-ups are in alphabetical order. Technically, they're in alphabetical order because Woad Elf comes before High Elf, because I wrote the stories in that order, and then I forgot. I was like, I wrote the Woad Elf ancestry first, and then the High Elf ancestry is a sequel to the Woad Elf write-up. And then I realized, wait, that is not the order in which they go. And James is like, you ain't got to worry about it. It's our book. We can put it in whatever order you want. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And he goes, I like it. They're both elf. It's elf, comma. So who cares? And then it was Pesto, our lead tester, who was like, it's an alphabetical order. And I was like, mwah. But I think that rearranging the letters, E, comma, W, capping before E, comma, H, that's fine. But changing H and P and O and M, no. People go fucking crazy. People's hats would flip. It might be atomic sorcery, ship feudalism. That sounds reasonable to me. Like a big capital ship is owned and run by a duke and the duke's retinue. And then the barons and counts and earls and stuff like that are smaller ships. Makes sense to me. Sounds cool, right? Well, Bauschwoosh, I'm not having fun. I'm not having fun going back and unfucking everything to make it make sense. I would have had more fun if I knew that this was how we were going to do it in the first place. But the thing is, I had to write those other write-ups, like the original Hakan write-up, which is you can go read it. It's in the packet. It's in the backer packet. It's the pillar. It's an excerpt. It's the characters from the society shortly after the events in the fiction in the talent. So people that bought the talent by MCDM, 5th edition psionics class, they're gonna be like, hey, look, it's the pillar and the arrow. Oh, neat. Right. But I was like, no, that qualifies as meeting a Hakan. But that write-up, this is all inside dev stuff. The fact that it's all fiction doesn't change the fact that it's still game development. The Pillars write-up was from when we thought all Hakan got the Doom Sight, before we deployed the Build-A-Bear for all the ancestries. Once all ancestries were using the Build-A-Bear rules that Willie came up with for the devil, then we could make Doom Sight an option for the Hakan. People liked that better. They liked the Doom Sight. They didn't want to be required to use it just to play Hakan. Fair enough. And at that point, the whole idea of the Hakan fiction I'd written was about the Doom Sight. I'm like, well, now I don't need to write about that. It's more important to just spend some time with a Hakan. And that's where that, where is it? Where is oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. Where I like the idea. I think, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know where my influences come from. Sometimes they're original. And I look around, I rummage through the giant hope chest full of junk that is my memories and influences. And I go, oh, I think maybe I write Hakan the way Stephen R. Donaldson wrote Giants, right? When Ardashir says, fear? At a meeting of friends, these must be treacherous time indeed if simple folk like us. Imagine describing John and Embers and Dazar as simple folk. Doesn't that tell you a lot about this dude? Ah, this must be treacherous. These must be treacherous times indeed, if simple folk like us have cause to fear meeting strangers. Right? That's. I feel like you learn a lot about the Hakan just from their attitude. They're super. Because look at these guys. They're like 9 feet tall. They're made out of stone. They're practically invulnerable. Right? They don't need. They wear like a loincloth because what do they care about the elements? You know. So of course they're jovial and